Bennett,
Daniel.
how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I have a question for you.
Oh, right off the bat.
Right off the bat, it's been burning a hole in my pocket
Mouth?
brain, my mouth, my pocket brain. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you are a piano teacher. Okay, and you have a kid who has been coming to you and is very clearly articulating they have no desire for piano. You love piano. You're a good teacher. You've tried the tricks with the kid, playing modern music, things to get them interested. And it's demonstrable that they have no interest. The parent insists on you can't quit, You're a kid. You don't know what you want. It's good for you. You're going to do this. Kind of almost a heavy-handed, you're not going to quit. Mm-hmm. And you sense that builds even a little more tension and possible resentment. I mean, but you're not the parent, so you're not going to weigh in on all of that. Mm-hmm. And maybe you even, well, I won't go into any more. What is your role as the piano teacher? I'll let you just kind of respond. Like, do you take the cash and run? Do you just continue to try? Do you actually say to the parent, I'm not going to see your kid? What do you do? And you can ask me qualifying questions.
How old is the kid?
That seems pivotal. I'm going to say 12, but I'm also going to push you to ask, is there a difference between being, say, 6 and 12, and why?
Well, I mean, I think the younger you are, the more, well, I mean, the more you kind of need to be pressed to do things you don't really like in the immediate moment. I mean, young kids are just basically pure emotion, whatever they're doing. If they don't like it, then they hate it. And if they do like it, then they love it. There's not a lot of nuance in a little kid. And, if you are trying to instill good habits in a little kid and they're just like, yeah, then, you need to press them to do it, because eventually that emotional response will die down and they may actually get some benefit from it.
So the younger the kid is, the less likely you'll give in to their emotional whims, because they might like it one week and not the next.
Right.
Are you saying, though, well, I'll give it an additional caveat. You've been doing this for 6 months, and the kid didn't like it on day one and hates it on day, whatever 60 or 6 months is.
Sure. So this is a 12-year-old that we're talking about, and
yeah,
a 12-year-old has
semi-autonomous,
has a little bit more of an idea of what they like and don't like, but they're still a little kid, and when you're that age, you still do kind of need to be pushed. You can't just have free reign of everything. You do need to learn some discipline. And obviously there are different ways you can be pressed into learning that sort of thing. So I think it's a delicate balance to, you have to push them enough to where they learn some discipline and responsibility and perseverance, but you have to know when to back off, because you can make them, like you say, build resentment or really hate something. So
not only something, but you possibly, right?
Possibly. You
go too far with it.
So, as the piano teacher in this situation, like, it's not my place to get involved in whether the kid continues to have lessons or not. I mean, really what I would do in the situation is try to diffuse tension, I basically just wouldn't be a hard ass about, like, the piano lessons. I would, I just wouldn't ride him so hard. I would just be like, all right, let's do something fun. I would try to make it more fun and enjoyable, and I would try to broaden the scope of the practice to other areas other than just rote memorization and practice, and tell them about the history or interesting pieces, or how they use piano in popular pop music, such as, like, Snoop Dogg uses the piano in some songs. I'm a big fan.
The hippest of the hip. Yeah.
Now known as Snoop Lion, I think.
It was Snoop Dogg to Snoop Doggy Dogg to Snoop Lion is where we're at. I think that's where he landed.
Yeah.
You clearly have cultural knowledge out the
So
wazoo.
see, these kids would love me as a piano teacher.
You could really talk to the
I
youth.
could really relate.
Yo.
And I could, we could light up a bong, and I could teach them about the piano.
Your 12-year-old student, you light up a bong with him.
Yeah.
No, to what degree does your enjoyment matter? Because surely seeing this parent and kid arrive that is probably in almost a contentious manner, and that the kid, I'm going to assume for a second the kid isn't a jerk toward you, but just the overwhelming.
Well, a 12-year-old is, their attitude is gonna shine through a bit.
Sure, they have a difficulty, I think, the younger you are, distinguishing the task and the person, so they see you as part of, they might even be snippy with you. My point is, they're not going to be a delight to teach in this case, and so even though you didn't say definitively, but you said it's not your judgment to make that, or your call to make that judgment.
Look,
so
they're
fine,
paying me for the lessons, and unless the kid is just truly being disrespectful and, to the point that I just can't deal with them anymore, then I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do my best to present an interesting lesson and teach them what they need to know. Because, and the reason that, what's kind of coloring my response is that when I was a kid, when I was close to that age anyway, my parents made me take guitar lessons, and they made me play sports. I had to play basketball, in a church league that you played in as well, and I had to play Little League baseball, and I didn't like any of those things.
I didn't know they made you do guitar lessons. I had no idea.
Yep, they made me take guitar lessons from a guy at our church as well, and and when I was a kid, I didn't really have a good sense of what kind of music I liked. I listened to country music because that's what my parents listened to, and I didn't even know what to play. And
so you didn't have a desire to play?
No, I had
or even you didn't have the respect for the craft
none.
in the first place.
No,
so
I
this
didn't.
was just a bizarre out of left field, play guitar, go kind of thing.
I don't really understand why, that was. I think it was. I'm just speculating because I don't remember the details that long ago. I only have a 7-year memory, but
everything is lost before that.
Yeah. But from what
you're basically a 7-year-old, is that what you're telling me? Or is it more complicated than that?
It's a little more complicated than that. But I imagine it was because I didn't really like sports, and I'm just hypothesizing. I didn't like doing the sports. I was probably pissy about it, but my parents recognized that I needed to do something. I needed to learn some discipline and crap, and so they made me take guitar lessons. And so I got an acoustic guitar for Christmas one year, and started taking these lessons. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it because the style of music that the guy played was just open chord gospel music. It wasn't interesting to me. The music didn't resonate with me. I really hated the stupid chord charts. I didn't like having to learn where to put my fingers. It never sounded good. The guitar at that age was a mystery to me. I didn't know what the letters meant, and I didn't know how to tune it. And this all, I don't think I took lessons for very long. It must have only been a period of 2 or 3 months or something. Yeah. And I remember the end of this was when I was tuning the guitar one time, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was obviously doing it wrong, and I tuned it too tight, and it snapped the string. And snapping a guitar string is
scary, I imagine.
It's surprising. You don't know. Well, first off, it's very tense because you can hear the string going getting tighter and tighter as you turn the thing and pick the string. And so it's always and you're looking at the tuner waiting for the letter to get right, and you're climbing the alphabet, and obviously what I had done is climbed one octave too high, so it was going and then,
but the letter's not reading right.
and then it's just pow, and it goes and then string goes everywhere, and I'm just
if it snapped at you, it would hurt like hell. I mean, geez.
If it hits you, it can. It's
unlikely.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it's just sudden. And I was
watching a kid
7 years old.
You'd be like, "Geez, what are you doing? Can you not hear the thing?" But you don't know better because you're just following the tuning thing.
Yeah, you're following. You don't know what you're doing as like 7-year-old or whatever. You have no conception of like
Were you
is the
this young,
string
by
too
the way?
tight. I think I
didn't hear you
was
right.
like 7 or 8. I don't remember exactly. Like I say, as long as it was before, older than 7 years ago. I don't know. But
So
but yeah.
ridiculous.
So that realm of discipline went away. Then
You had
I
no
was like,
musical maturity, though. You had there was nowhere to enter into a desire, because if you were starting to go, "Oh, I love that guitar riff in that song," well, would you like to play it? Ooh, really? I never thought about that. And you can
Right.
just kind of enter into
well,
music that way.
well, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, even though I liked country music, whatever liking that means at that age, and only because my parents liked it. Like, I didn't really have many favorite songs, and the songs that I did like, I didn't like because of the guitar, because it's just acoustic open chord guitar most of the time. There's not any riffs or anything, and only in modern country music have they brought in electric guitar and all these other genres and hip hop country and all that other crap. So, like, I didn't know what sound I wanted to hear out of the guitar, and so it wasn't interesting to me, and I didn't like the practice, and I broke a string, and so, like, it was just all bad for me. I would rather go play Donkey Kong Country, and that's what I wanted to do with my free time, not mess around with on this stupid instrument.
Okay, well, that makes sense, and that's fine. So, I mean, on the one hand, we have like sympathy toward the parents, saying we want them to be out there, be active, and since you're a kid, you have no idea what you really want. So our job is to provide access, opportunity, inspiration, these sorts of get out there, and the first time you say, I don't like this, we're not going to just say, oh, and stop it. Like, we're going to make you persevere, whether it's one basketball season or one, I don't know, whatever. It seems reasonable that a parent should agree, maybe an agreement with the kid that says, like, okay, well, you're not just going to quit randomly. We're going to be thoughtful. You're going to finish out and then reevaluate, whatever
Sure,
finish
right.
out means. It's a little more nebulous, I think, in getting lessons for guitar. So back to this piano thing. So I think I articulated fairly the pros of saying this is why we're going to ask you to persevere, and perseverance is arguably one of the strongest qualities we can possess as a human. I mean, whether it's in the workforce or in a relationship or whatever, like, we need to not give up, not throw away,
To
not
have some grit.
yeah, grit is a huge part of what it means to be even happy. I think if you're just constantly throwing away when you're dissatisfied, then you're not going to get to a place. Like, happiness doesn't come cheap. You need grit, and you need to work toward it. It's not just this automatic thing that happens. You have
Right.
to be
It's the pursuit of
steadfast.
happiness, not the gift of happiness.
Yes. Well, good point. Pursuit of happiness. That's a pretty cool phrase. I like. Did you just come up with that?
Yeah, I just made that up.
It has a nice ring to it. We should put it in maybe
Sometime
a poem or
I'll-
something. I don't know.
Maybe I'll declare that sometime. I don't know.
Yeah. So,
I declare the pursuit of
pursuit
happiness.
So, on the other end, though, I mean, let's look at some serious consequences of forcing a kid to do what they don't want to do, and that is the resentment, not only toward the thing itself, piano in this case, but it could damage the relationship. Those are on extreme ends. If and I'm just setting the 6 months arbitrarily, because that seems like long enough to say this kid doesn't like it if they've been doing it for 6 months. To what extent should you side, like a 12-year-old kid is a semi-autonomous being. They're not like they can make their choices and decide for themselves, and you want to respect that. And if they, like, I guess two discussions are going on, like, what should you do as a parent, and I'm kind of voicing that, and then what is your role as a teacher? Because it's easier as a role of a teacher to say, my role is to, if you bring me students, to educate them. But would you feel compelled to say, as a piano teacher, to the parent possibly, like, look, I just want to update you, clearly the kid's not involved or getting involved, and my professional opinion is they might not turn that corner, but you never know, is the reality.
No, it's not my responsibility. I mean, if the parent asks me for my opinion, I'll give it, but, like, truly, that's not my place.
Speaking from on behalf of an educator, like, I think one of our jobs is, this is the reason grades or report cards or writing comments or whatever exists, is to say to the parent, Here, let me give you a synopsis of my professional opinion. And if you see this sort of negativity swirling, and I guess I'm presuming on your end that you see it as a harmful experience.
Well,
but
I mean,
perhaps you're not seeing it as a harmful one. Maybe it is just a temporary like rough patch. So.
Well, and too, like, this isn't mandatory education. This is a voluntary extracurricular piano lesson. So, I mean, it's nothing super serious. And
well, isn't it all the more reason to allow the kid to say, no, and you kind of advocate on their behalf and say, hey, like,
No.
I only want students who want to be here. Like, is it fine as a can a piano teacher within their right say, I'm only going to accept students that want to be here?
The piano teacher can say whatever they want to say, and it can affect their business or their relationship with the parent or kid. Sure, I'm just saying what I would do.
Right.
I mean, a piano teacher is well within their rights to be all stuck up about it and just be like, the keys don't call to you, get out.
Well, that's a clear way of painting it, right? I think the favorable way would say, like, I believe in tapping into people who want to be tapped into. That's a weird, I guess, analogy. But, when you are ready, I will work with you. That's just a reasonable stance on a sort of extracurricular thing that a kid's doing.
And if I had people beating down my door to take piano lessons from me, and I have this one like bad attitude kid who is just in a grudge match with his parents, and I'm caught in the middle of that, then maybe I do say, like, hey, listen, this isn't going too well, like, take a seat over in the corner and I'm going to have my next person in to really learn. Or tell the parent, like, sorry, your kid's not into it, I got other people, this is a waste of my time.
Right, I don't want this to occupy my hour when I could put other kids that want to learn. Yeah.
So, it depends on the circumstances, but again, like, this is a 12-year-old and, it's a piano lesson. And it's not like they're in any imminent danger. This isn't even hard. They just have to sit on a bench and press some keys. Like, honestly, just learn some discipline. Just sit there and learn some discipline. And if you can't do that, then watch me as I play an awesome song. Like, I mean, people can appreciate music. They're just being stubborn at that point. And, if as the parent, if 6 months go by and the kid is still just, stubbornly not wanting to deal with piano lessons, then fine, they can stop piano lessons. Like you say, I think it's reasonable to say, all right, you're going to try this thing for this long. If you're not into it at the end of that, then fine, we'll move on to something else. Because I'll tell you what happened with me and the guitar, is I hated the guitar after that. I didn't like it, and I thought it was a dumb instrument. And just didn't like it. It impacted how much I liked music and the guitar specifically.
Yeah.
And I kind of rebelled against both of those things after the failed guitar lesson.
What does a rebellion against music look like?
Just didn't listen to it so much.
Yeah.
Or if I was in the back seat, my parents were listening to the music, I would just not listen to it.
I was picturing you trying to rhythmically chant and then catch yourself kind of singing and go, no, I'm back into the music, protesting the music.
Damn you, Garth Brooks! But see, and now, of course, things are different. I play the guitar now and have for, I guess, 13 years or so, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do and one of my primary hobbies. And so, there was some period of time between when I gave up my guitar lessons as a little kid and when I started playing again after high school, that, like, if I hadn't gone through that experience, I might have picked up a guitar a little bit earlier and, learned at a more appropriate pace.
Right, because you came to it on your own, which, I mean, your story almost seems to indicate you'd be more empathetic toward the, hey, like, you don't want to play right now.
But, I mean, like, you can't be too empathetic to that. I mean, you do have to press kids into doing things. Otherwise, they will just do nothing. And it's a really valuable thing to learn, perseverance and grit, like you say. Like, super important. I mean, those are life-defining traits that you must learn. And as much as I didn't like the guitar lessons, and as much as I didn't like Little League Baseball or the church basketball league, like... Yeah. It did at least teach me how to cope with doing something I don't like over and over.
Right,
and
I
didn't come out the other end liking any of those things. I still don't like stupid chord charts on the guitar. And and I don't like playing baseball, and I don't like playing basketball. And so that didn't change, but I did learn how to do things I don't like.
And that's huge. Because that's probably involved in work to some degree or another, no matter what your
Absolutely,
job is.
work,
Or in
school,
relationships. Or,
podcasts,
our
doing
friendship
podcasts.
duties.
Yeah.
Doing podcasts. All of it. Everything is miserable. I hate it all.
Right, but I'm good at it. I'm good at doing things I hate.
So
I hate that I'm so good at it, though.
Okay, the kid's 17 now. 6 months have gone by. This is a reasonably mature young man, and who's saying, I don't like piano. I'm sorry my mom keeps bringing it here. I'm not going to be an ass toward you, but like this is I just don't like it, and I'm fairly confident I'm not going to like it. I mean, pretty convincing case this kid lays out. Do you just say, well, your parents insist on paying me, I'm going to take it? I mean, like, let's just listen to some music together. Like, what do you like? Like, let's find some like maybe if they're reasonable and they're 17, they'll bargain with you, or they'll negotiate.
Yeah, sure.
With you.
I would try something like that. I mean, they're at the lesson for an hour, and the check is already made to me, and I would tell them, like, all right, well, your parents paid for this lesson, so we can't, you can't just leave. You can take it up with your parents. If you're not into the lesson, let's try to make the best of it. That would be my attitude with the 17-year-old who, has been trying for a while and is just not into it. As long as I detect that it's not an insecurity thing, where it's just like, I'm just not good at it. If it's that kind of thing, then I would hope that, ballgame, I would hope that as a teacher I can recognize that and, try to have them push through. But if it is the reasonable case, like you're saying, then, I would try to work with them so that there's something we can do to make use of the hour. And I would hope that they can present that reasonable case to their parents and work it out.
So given your answer, you probably aren't going to change anything, but is it possible that if we switch this from piano teacher to Little League baseball coach, that someone's answer could conceivably change from let them quit to no, or it's just what are the dynamics that change, and what is it reasonable to change your answer, or are the parallels precise in that you shouldn't change your position at all?
So there are two reasons I can think that there may be a difference between a piano lesson and Little League baseball. The first is the one that is kind of what happened in my situation. So my dad was a big sports fan, and he played sports in college and was all into sports, loved sports, and so of course he would want his son to play sports. And so when I didn't want to play baseball or basketball, there was no questioning that I was going to play baseball or basketball. And so whereas I think most parents would give you a year and then you can decide after a year, for me, I played like 4 years of baseball or maybe more than that. And I played 2 or 3 years of basketball, and didn't like either one right from the beginning all the way through to the end. And so, if you have a parental figure who really loves the thing, and they're trying to, in a way, live vicariously through you, or they love it, so even in a good-natured sort of way, they're trying to show you their love for the sport.
Right, they want you to discover it, and that'd be so wonderful to them. Yeah.
Right. Then that might be a reason why it's different between sports and piano. Of course, if my dad was a piano player, then it could be the reverse.
Right. So I don't see much of a difference there, honestly.
Okay. So this one is a difference, and that's that baseball or basketball, a sport, it deals with your physical growth and development. So it's really important to actually do physical exercise when you're a kid, when you're developing. And if you're taking piano lessons, you're not getting a lot of exercise. I mean, I guess you're working
skills,
out
dexterity, fingers,
fine motor skills and dexterity, and your brain to an extent.
Yeah,
but
it's not the same.
That's not the same. And I guess probably if you were going to determine which one had a long-term impact on health, I imagine that the kids who are playing sports are probably healthier long term, assuming this isn't football where they bash their heads in.
Right. There's no major injuries at play. Yeah.
Right. So that's another reason why I think it's important. And if I had kids, even though I'm not a sports guy, I would probably still make my kids play. Pick a sport and you play it for a year. Hopefully they like it and they play Little League or whatever for a while with their friends.
Yeah, well, with your friends, that was two things I thought of as the collaborative efforts of team play versus the individual effort of like learning an instrument.
Yeah, that's a
huge difference. So if you say hate the sport, you could probably still find pleasures in that other kid who also hates the sport, and a friendship is born, and yay.
Well, see, so in my case, most of what I didn't like about the sports was team play. I've never liked playing on a team with people. And I liked baseball more than basketball because in baseball, you're mostly solitary. You're on a team, yes, but you're solitary when you're batting. You're solitary when you're, at your position in the field. And you just kind of stand there and, yeah, you have to throw the ball to other people, but you're not really doing all that much with your team.
Sure, yeah.
In basketball, it's all teamwork. Yeah. You're always passing and double dribbling and making your touchdowns.
Yeah, your touchdown throws and your
all
inbound,
that stuff.
Out of bounds.
Yeah, and the umpires are always like, like
you're
offsides.
out of here, peanuts.
Yeah,
3 strikes and you're here.
Free throws and you're out.
So there's the collaborative efforts, and then also, and this might be a case toward the whole piano teacher being a better example, but there's intimacy. You can escape in the numbers in a sport, whereas like the one-on-one intimacy of musical instruction, I'm imagining anyway, that distaste is so amplified when you're there, and I guess sports are just more complicated. You have a group of 20 kids out there, and you start by doing like warm-up drills, or you run a lap, or you play a little goofy game that's a little unrelated, maybe involving a basketball or whatever the sport is, but it isn't really a basketball skill, or it's loosely correlated. And there's just so many elements to it, and I guess there's that's to suggest there's not as many elements to music, and that's not true at all.
I mean, but in the case of a piano lesson, I mean, I think you're right. Like in a piano lesson, the eyes, even though there are fewer eyes around, they're always on you. The attention is always on you, and like you say, that intimacy, like if you don't like the situation and you're insecure or you just have a bad attitude, then always having the eyes on you is not going to make things easier. In a sport, it is distributed a little bit, but depending on the sport, like there are, like in baseball in particular, there are moments when all eyes are on you when you're the batter, and and that doesn't make it any better either. I remember when I played Little League, like, man, I didn't like it, and I played either outfield or third base, and I preferred outfield because I could just stand out there and most of the time not have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I could look around and, like, whatever. And it wasn't that bad. The ball was rarely hit to me. But when you're a batter, like I remember wanting it to just be over with. Like, ugh, just,
there's
whether
there's a performance anxiety about it. Like, everyone's going to judge or be disappointed if you mess up, or cheer if you do well.
Well, and I was a kid. I was a skillless kid, and so it always just seemed random to me whether I hit the ball or not. Like,
you didn't really link your hard work and practice to it.
It didn't feel like my effort had any relationship to the results of my effort. So like I would just kind of go woo and swing the bat, and sometimes I would hit the ball and people would be happy, and sometimes I would miss the ball and people would be annoyed. And I'm playing baseball in the South, and there were people that were like really into it, like parents are really into it, and when you strike out, they're like, come on, number 7, like, get it together.
And you're just a kid.
And I'm just a kid.
Who doesn't like the sport?
I don't like the sport. I don't want to be there.
Based on your description, you just sound like an unathletic kid, just not knowing what you're swinging and what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I wasn't, and I would just swing the bat, and sometimes I would hit it, and sometimes I wouldn't hit it, and I would just, what, I don't know what.
To this game that's so important to these, like, Little League dads.
Yeah, it was strange,
you're just screwing it up, like you don't care.
It was weird. Now, thank goodness, there was almost always someone on the team worse than me. In the basketball, we played in this at the same time, and there was one person who was just
exactly.
abysmal, I mean, so bad
that like you wonder years later.
I didn't have to worry. Yeah, I didn't have to worry. Now this was a church basketball league, you remember, and at the end we always got these little stars.
Yeah. Different colors meant
different colors. Your best offense, you get 1 star, and best defense, you got the other. Well, this guy always got the most Christ-like,
right? Which
star,
was code for
which
you're
was basically like
basketball.
There's nothing. There's nothing we can give you to like reward your effort. So
you can't even
basically
best effort or most improved, because that's usually reserved for that. But that would be ridiculous, because this kid would if he caught the ball, he would shoot. It doesn't matter if you inbounded it on the other end. He would just chuck it or run 8 or 9 steps, and they call travel as he's chucking it at like strange behavior. We're not talking about being 5 years old. We're talking about what?
How old were we?
It would have been probably 6th grade, maybe.
Yeah, we were 12 or something.
Right, which is the age for the piano examples. So,
right. It was like, here, have the most Christ-like star because you got crucified out there.
That was so lame. I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I think we explored that one. Good. I feel
that was a good question. That was a good question.
Well, lots of whether the teacher and the parent and your role in it. I think you get to hide behind the I'm a piano teacher, I don't make that decision kind of answer, which I think is a fair and honest answer. It can be complicated. Because personally, I don't know where I stand, because I think it's reasonable for that teacher to approach and say, "Listen, I'll take your money, but I honestly think you should maybe allow this kid, set a plan, give them some, ideally, to me, I guess now I'm talking about what the parent should do, but the parent should say, look, okay, you hate it, I'm not going to let you quit right now because, it's important to me that you have some grit and development, but what after, and I'll just set another date, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, that you actually give it your all, that I see you demonstrate true effort, then we will have we will revisit the conversation, in which case, if you feel just as strongly, I'll let you out, and you get to decide another path. But the only option is you can't choose no path. You can't just say, I'm going to sit at home and eat Doritos. That's not part of this plan. And then in that way, the kid is still exploring and encouraged and all of that. That seems like the best possible scenario. But that's on behalf of the parent and not the piano teacher. That's just, piano teacher can just say, whatever, give me your money. Yep. So
yeah, it depends a lot on the situation, on the context for that.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, were you a Sega kid or a Nintendo kid?
I was totally Nintendo all the way, and in fact, my foray, the way I discovered video games, I was not a video game person. The friend down the street had a Nintendo Entertainment System. We called it regular Nintendo. That was commonly what we
because Super Nintendo was already out.
I think that has to be why. But I'm telling you, I didn't know. It's not like I was reading articles. The internet wasn't a thing yet. It was just he had regular Nintendo, and we would play some Ninja Turtles games.
I remember calling it a regular Nintendo as well. Well, see, I never had a friend with a regular Nintendo that I would play with. I just knew what they were. I ended up with a Super Nintendo, but I knew what a regular Nintendo was.
Well, it was a fairly mystical thing going over there, and I just loved it, and I actually recall being better at it than he was, even though he got to play it a lot.
What was this kid's name?
Naturally.
First name?
His name was Wesley.
Okay.
And so he lived down the road. You wouldn't know. He was my first best friend, I guess. I don't know. And so we'd go over and play frequently. And then one day, and I don't remember that clearly. There was a little bit of confusion. There was no anticipation. I didn't ask for it for a birthday. It was nothing. It was actually, and I know this, it was Father's Day, and my mom got my dad the Super Nintendo for Father's Day. This is a mysterious, and I didn't comprehend. I was like, wait, regular Nintendo? And no, Super Nintendo. What? It's better. It's newer. It's the big new thing. And it just was like for my dad, and he's like, yeah, and he's kind of grinning, and wink, wink, really for me.
But this would have been, how old were you, and how
oh my
old was your
gosh,
dad at this
this
point?
is embarrassing. Can we? I wish I could just find out when Nintendo released the Super Nintendo, because I'm imagining it was within a year or two of it coming out.
I mean, it must have been like 1990 or so, because the regular Nintendo was 85 or something?
So, yeah, I mean, I was young, so this would make sense that I'd be 4 to 6 or between 4 and 7 years old.
It was
I don't know.
Early 90s.
Yeah, we're talking early memory. When I'm sharing this memory with you,
because when we were in 5th grade, that's when WCW versus NWO Revenge came out for the N64, right?
Yes, and that was
a little bit later in the N64. So
yeah,
Super Nintendo.
Wow, we were young, and
yeah.
I didn't have like a friend network to go brag to, or even I don't know that I understood.
Wait, why not?
Well, I mean, I don't remember that I did or did not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember sharing at school.
My dad got a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, none of that. That's just not in the wheelhouse of how I was operating. So I just remember that Super Mario World was the game that either came in the box with it, or I'm sure my dad set it up. I have no memory of unboxing. I have no memory other than feeling a bit bewildered. Like, I have this new magical machine, or my dad does, but he's going to let me play it, and he's even going to let me play it first, and putting in Super Mario World, and I didn't have language for the word graphics, wasn't in my vocabulary. To be able to articulate why it's better, or looks smoother, or higher resolution or whatever. But I just remember going, ooh, rounded controller. I do remember that sort of impression of different. It's smoother, it's rounder, everything about it. And the cartridge popping out of it,
plunking the cartridge in there vertically.
And then at that point, I gamed a lot, became very good at Super Mario World. Was in fact the best that I knew of. I mean, so in my world, I was the best in the world.
Beat the game, I assume, right?
Yeah, not only beat the game, but got to the sort of star levels where they all, and then the little Mario, or excuse me, the forgive me, Goombas and all the little creatures turn into little Mario faces. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you got so many things and did something, like they turned into little they turned into little, looks like little Mario creature bad guys, like a different version of them. I'd have to. That's also a strange memory, that. But I was one of the few that I'd ever seen. I don't know if I came across a code or something, but I thoroughly beat that game and beat all the star levels and all of that. So I was the best gamer I knew. Part of my identity as a young kid going in 2nd grade when I transitioned to the school that you go to too, or you went to, I was like, I'm Daniel and I'm a gamer, and I took pride in that. And so one of my first friends there, David, I was just so much better than him, and it kind of wowed him. And I was like, I took a lot of pride in that. So because he had a Super Nintendo as well. At that point, I think everyone started to have it, and it was normal. It wasn't this mystery box. And I mean, this is years later. So
yeah, see, I remember. I don't remember when I got my Super Nintendo, but I did have a Super Nintendo. But if you were to ask me whether I was a Sega kid or a Nintendo kid, well, it depends on when we're talking about. But I think for the longest time, I was more of a Sega kid. I liked Sonic the Hedgehog. That was my favorite. I thought Sonic the Hedgehog was
game.
Super cool.
It's fast.
Cool
slick,
character, right?
Cool sounds.
And I had a Sega Genesis, and actually before I had the Sega Genesis, I had the Sega Game Gear. You remember that massive portable thing?
Yeah,
it was
up batteries
huge.
Like crazy.
It took 6 C batteries or something like that.
And it would last
but it had a
45 minutes.
but it had a colored backlit screen.
Yeah.
And so it was years ahead of the Game Boy, which I didn't have.
Ahead.
I didn't have a Game Boy. An original Game Boy. I had the Game Gear, the Sega Game Gear.
I had a Game Gear as well, so yeah.
And I loved the Game Gear, and I played Sonic on the Game Gear. And then I got a Sega Genesis so that I could play Sonic on the TV. And like I love Sonic the Hedgehog, and I would whenever I would go with my mom to like Books a Million, the bookstore, and I would go straight to the magazine section and they have comics, and I would get the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books. So I was never a comic book kid. Like I didn't like Batman and Spider-Man and all that, but I did like Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, the Archie comic books.
Yeah.
And so I would get the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, and they're like 99 cents, and just I would always get the latest issue of Sonic the Hedgehog comic books and loved them. I still have them actually.
So you would actually read them too. You wouldn't just like look kind of blankly at the color.
No, I would read them. So I liked it. I thought it was cool, and like, and then of course it made me like the games even more. So I was really into Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid.
I had a distant relationship with Sonic. I remember I carpooled briefly, and I don't even know the context of this, but I would go over to someone's house and they had Sonic, and so I'd get to play briefly, and Sega was sleeker. It was black, and it was the whole Sega brand when you turn it on. And
they tried
memorable. That really
they tried to position themselves as the more mature.
Is that what it was? Like, do you mean like more violent or more? What do they mean by more mature? Yeah, just edgier kind of gameplay.
Yeah, for teens instead of for kids.
Yeah. Even though obviously Sonic and Mario are comparable in that they are.
Yeah, but Sonic has an attitude.
And he does.
Sonic has an attitude, and he's kind of irreverent.
And he's physically drawn like sharp, like he's got pointy. Like he's a hedgehog.
Literally edgy.
Yes, he's hedgy. He's
hedgy.
Yeah, no, and he does have an attitude and a smirk on his face, whereas Mario's a plumber who just is, kind of chubby and like sweet or like adorable, or like and the plot's always like, let me save the girl, like Peach, the dispossessed, girl.
Yeah,
with Bowser.
He doesn't have much of an attitude.
No, not an attitude at all. Just kind of a woohoo, like I'm in an overtly friendly attitude. And there's the speed of Sega. Like, this is fast and slick, and so even at that like family friendly level, it has a lot of signals to say this is what. I also recall there was a difference. So there was the video game Aladdin. Obviously based on
that was a good game.
On Super Nintendo, I loved it. I could beat it. It was one of those games that didn't have a save point. A lot of games were like that. If you remember, you had to actually just, once you lost or turned it off, that was it. You couldn't resume. So, but it had about maybe 2 hours worth of gameplay, and I became an expert at it, could beat it in, roughly that time.
Eating that bread.
So, throwing the apples to stun the guards and bouncing
riding
on
the flying carpet.
Riding the flying, well, there's the carpet, but also if
it
was
lava
one of
level,
those
right?
you hold the the lava level, so the wave would come crashing, and you'd have to be going up and down. And then when you would jump off of surfaces, not on the lava level, but just any other level, you could jump and hold L. I think it was L or R, one of them. But he would have a sheet, so he would drift down slowly. But primarily, it was throwing the apples to stun, but it wasn't a very useful technique other than kind of puts the enemy in a daze for a moment, and then jumping on their heads. Like that was just pretty standard, jump on the head and like a Mario type thing. But the Sega Genesis one, I knew for a fact. I don't know how different the gameplay, if every level was different from ground up or not, but he had one of those, I guess I'll just say Arabian swords, those curved swords, those cool looking, and you could slash about.
Scimitar.
And is that what it's called?
Scimitar?
Scimitar? Cemetery. So it was just really cool. I mean, I fantasized about having that game. I could not, I don't know. I thought the apple throwing was so lame, and it took away. Also, the Power Ranger video game, I think, came out for a good bit before on the Sega Genesis, and I could not play it. And I was obsessed with Power Rangers, and or perhaps it was, I might be misremembering, that the Power Rangers game that I loved on Super Nintendo, but you couldn't be the Green Ranger. That wasn't an option, but the Green Ranger was on the Sega Genesis. Yeah, well, that was pretty widely agreed upon.
Actually, I was never really a Power Rangers fan as a kid. I wasn't really into it that much.
I learned Power Rangers on the playground. They were like, which Ranger are you? And I just didn't know, and I didn't know what color. I might have said blue the first day, which he's kind of the goofy dorky
at our
one.
school?
It's like, no. The public school I went to before first grade, like it was like that's, and I asked what it was, and I was an impressionable kid, and so the popular kid shares with me, you don't know Power Rangers? You can imagine that's just how kids, like, they exercise their knowledge over someone else. Like, you don't know that? And so I was like, oh, well, yeah. And then I went home totally primed to absolutely love it. It could have been garbage, and by the way, it pretty much is. If you watch old episodes, oh man, it's.
Are there any Power Rangers movies?
There are, yeah. Well,
we should add them to the B movie list.
Ivan Ooze. I know there's a line about like they kill one of the putties and he explodes, and the guy goes, and this is decontextualized. He just if you imagine kicking him across the room and he explodes, and he goes 8-ball corner pocket. I don't know why I have this knowledge, but isn't that an awesome
That's great.
line?
That's an amazing line,
especially when they weren't at a bar. I don't think they weren't using pool sticks. It wasn't like that. It was like it was in some sort of temple, so like it was just not the line did not work, which makes it even better.
That's awesome. I can imagine kids on the playground, reenacting that one.
We really,
8-ball corner pocket.
Like just anytime you score or like dominate in any way, they just I could easily see
say goofy stuff like that. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm down a rabbit hole there about that, but so the game differences between Sega and Super Nintendo, and so I picked up on that Sega was edgier. I mean, again, I wasn't reading or debating with people, or I wasn't involved in any conversation, but there was a sort of envy I had of the Sega Genesis as this a little edgier device that I did later get one, but I didn't own it for long. Like I think within a short time. N64 came out, and that just changed. That just changed it. Everything's old after that. Like it was
right.
It
3D.
was N64. Yeah. That's the new frontier kind of thing.
Yeah, I loved Sonic the Hedgehog, but then I did also have some favorite Super Nintendo games. I played both quite a bit. One of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo was, at least I don't hear much about it now, but a game called Uniracers, which is about racing unicycles. There were unicycles that would just race each other. They didn't have riders, of course. They were just unicycles, and they would there were these multicolored courses, and you could do tricks to go faster.
Like leaning forward, I'm imagining.
Yeah, they would lean forward, and it was very fast-paced gameplay, but really fun. I loved that game as a kid. And I liked, of course, the Super Mario games I liked a lot. And I liked Super Mario All-Stars more than Super Mario World as a kid, but I liked them both. I liked Yoshi.
Well, Super Mario All-Stars, it just gives the impression of 4 games, even in 4 different gameplays, even if it wasn't any bigger, So that's exciting, though, to feel like you're getting 4 games in one.
Right. But I would say if I had to pick a most influential Super Nintendo game, it would probably be Donkey Kong Country. I loved those games. They were hard, and I liked the music. That was one of the first times that I remember liking the music in a video game. I really liked the Donkey Kong Country music, and switching out characters and all the secrets. And you could use a Game Genie and get all kinds of secret stuff.
Oh, Game Genie, that was really cool.
The Game Genies were awesome. I felt
into stuff.
Yeah, I felt like it felt so weird to you have this plastic contraption and you put it in, and you put your game on top of the plastic contraption, and then you have to go to the bookstore and find these code books of codes. And you're typing in numbers and letters into the thing.
It came with an orange booklet, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was a bright reddish with yellow letters.
I remember renting games from Blockbuster and really hoping their names, so you would look it up alphabetically, almost like you're looking in a dictionary. And go, oh yeah, it has it.
Yeah, there's a code.
It doesn't have not
anything good.
Lives. It's just change the color of this character. I don't care.
Lame.
Yeah,
but it always seemed like magic to me. And as a kid, I had this. I had this, like a genie. As a kid, I had this fantasy of being able to basically merge games together. I always dreamed of I wonder if there's a Game Genie code to put Sonic in, Mario, or take Donkey Kong and make him race with the Uniracers or whatever. I thought it was possible as a kid because you could do all this wacky stuff by typing in these codes, and I experimented with breaking the codes.
Would you type in Donkey Kong in Uniracers?
No, not Donkey Kong. Well, because I recognized that for infinite lives you put in A8469Z whatever. You put in letters and numbers, and so I would change a few of them and see what would happen, and it makes your game glitch out. You are actually inserting code into the game that makes it glitch out.
Oh, that sounds strange.
So you would get weird behavior by putting in the wrong codes. I could never get Donkey Kong to appear in the Uniracers.
No luck.
No luck. Maybe if I tried more, but I wasn't able to. But I always thought it was so magical, and that's why the game Sonic and Knuckles was like really interesting to me. If you remember, Sonic and Knuckles was like a Game Genie, and that the actual cartridge opened up on top, and you could put Sonic the Hedgehog 3 into it, and it would unlock Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
That's really cool.
Crazy,
I do not remember
strange.
that, by the way.
Yeah, the game itself opens up at the top, and you can put another game on top of it.
That's really neat. I mean, can you name another game that's
just the
like
Game
that?
Genie is the only other thing I know of like that.
Right, any manipulation. The Game Shark was the N64
Yeah,
version. Not nearly as cool, if I recall.
Just a different company. A different company doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Sonic and Knuckles, there was this really cool thing, and this also set my kid imagination just on fire. Like, it was intended for you to put Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in top of Sonic and Knuckles. But if you put another game in there, like if you put Jurassic Park in Sonic and Knuckles, then it worked. But
Wait, what do you mean it worked?
It didn't like
the game would still function. Yeah,
it didn't give you some kind of error screen or whatever. It came on, and what it did was it gave you a special bonus level in Sonic and Knuckles. Like there were these bonus levels you may not remember.
Oh, so it was designed purposefully, like to recognize Jurassic Park. And
Yeah,
give you a bonus level.
There were these 3D levels that were like on a giant sphere, and there were these little blue orbs and red orbs, and it was 3D, and you were running forwards, and you had to collect all the blue orbs. Do you remember this at all?
I don't. That sounds kind of revolutionary for a 2D side-scrolling game, right? Like,
if you remember, even Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the bonus levels were a 3D like half pipe.
I think you're overestimating my Sonic knowledge. I was like level 1 of Sonic,
Right.
and then there was a temple.
There
level
were
after
special
that,
3D levels. This was kind of one of the strong points of the Sega Genesis is that you could do some 3D stuff, and I guess you could on the Super Nintendo as well with like Star Fox, but it just wasn't quite as good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so different games that you put in the top of Sonic and Knuckles would give you different bonus levels, and I thought it was magical, magical that like they programmed something into every game for Sonic, and I didn't understand what was really going on, but like, there was some preset amount of bonus levels, and I'm sure they just read some identification code from the game and loaded up the bonus level.
It wouldn't be tailor-made to Jurassic Park or anything.
No, it wasn't.
That. It would just be like, we recognize you put a different cartridge in that is a game, and we will give you a bonus level just for experimenting a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and of course, I didn't recognize that as a kid, but I thought it was magical, and I thought, like, well, maybe if I do the level fast enough, then I'll get to play with the Velociraptor in Sonic and Knuckles or something.
I love the extent of like kid imagination is pretty much simply to combine what you know. So like when it was WCW fans were like, what if Goldberg
Diamond Dallas Page,
and Stone Cold Steve Austin fight? They're both the
that
bald
was a
tough
big
guy, like or Kane and like Kevin Nash. I don't know, but the point is that we would just like that is. To a kid, that is creativity. Combine this pretty obvious.
Oh yeah, well, I used to always dream about a game console that had a slot for Sega Genesis games and Super Nintendo games, and you could plug all your controllers into them, and it would play all the games, and it would meld the games together like my imaginary Game Genie would. So I always thought that was the awesomest thing.
When you're a kid and you have these thoughts, they're thrilling and stimulating in a way that would you say is difficult to replicate? Do you still... Maybe you stumble upon a new philosophical idea that like makes sense in your worldview, and you feel like this is a moment I've actually advanced my learning. So I'm just trying to say an ideal thought, right? You're exposed to a word or a phrase that connects ideas you hadn't previously thought about, and like a high quality thought that you're like, ooh, I like that. Are you feeling just as thrilled as your sort of dreaming aspirations of Sonic the Hedgehog and having a Velociraptor in it? Or is there just something so childlike, the wonder that you have in those moments that can't be replicated as an adult? Did that question make any sense?
I think, well, you're basically asking if now I have any similar sort of feelings.
Do we daydream
awe.
about silly crap that like gets you thrilled about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool
problem,
if...
the problem is, as a kid, I didn't know how a lot of things worked, and so I didn't have the restrictions of reality on my imagination, and so I could ask what if and believe that it was possible. Whereas now, when I do that, I immediately, think, oh well, that's not possible, and here's
Right.
why.
And on the other side of that, by the way, if you recall, there was like a big conversation when I think it was PlayStation 2, and if you paused on, let's say, a football game replay and zoomed in, they might actually have bothered to put holes in like mesh holes in the jerseys, like not like it's high def or anything, but they bothered to put the
Yeah.
dots to kind of represent those mesh holes. And we would talk about that level of detail. Oh my gosh, did you know that there was holes in the jersey? Like that's how detailed it was, and that was so thrilling. This sort
Yeah.
of, and that would just, I don't think fourth graders are talking about the shine on the football helmet in a football game. That's really impressive, right? Maybe the shine actually shows all the individual fans. Like maybe it's crazy how the reflection detail in the helmet, but I don't think that they're impressed the way we were impressed because we got to go along the journey from side-scrolling games to where we are now, and now that their level of expectation of like a game that kind of merges two concepts would be like, oh, that's cool, but I just don't know that. I wonder if we've robbed the youth of like the inventiveness. Like if they just say, oh, we'll allow the creators to be the one with creative thoughts, and they're not bothering conjuring up silly stuff like we did, because that conjuring up seems really important to the creative processes. Or
I don't
know.
really think so. I think that there's still, kids play Fortnite or whatever, and they still imagine goofy things happening in the game. I mean, even when I was playing Halo in high school, I would still imagine really cool levels and stuff, and that was on the Xbox, and you could there's a higher level of graphical detail in
Yeah.
that than on
Yeah.
side scrollers. But kids today, they're still obsessed with graphics. Yeah, maybe even more so than we were as kids, because how obsessed can you be with a few polygons in 64?
Right.
It looks
Pixelated
goofy,
stuff,
or
yeah.
Final Fantasy on the PlayStation looks real goofy
We
and
were concerned with
blocky.
gameplay a lot more, and that's, yeah, you're right. That is a more general concern in the gaming community of gameplay versus graphics and what should be leading the charge.
Right. Well, the reason I initially asked you about this is I want to get your take on something. I'm sending you a link right now. I want you to click on
Okay,
it
let me
and
open
look
up
at it.
here. Are you sending it through the old
Through-
FB?
through the messenger.
Yeah. The redirect notice.
Yeah, it's a Google Images link. It's just an image.
It's not pulling up. It says, or the previous page is sending you to. Maybe this. Here's a link. Okay, here we got it. Sonic the Hedgehog. Whoa.
So there's been so this is a live action Sonic the Hedgehog movie that is being made, and these promo images apparently leaked. So this is what Sonic the Hedgehog is going to look like in this new movie. So what do you think about it?
Well, I gotta qualify and say I again wasn't a huge fan, not in the sense that I didn't like him, but I just wasn't exposed to him a lot, so I don't have a holy image in my head of him. I just know he's the blue dude, and I know that when I look at this image that I'm seeing, there's something that bothers me and go, that's not Sonic. Like the soul of Sonic is lost. I don't see the smirk that we talked about. There's a degree of it, and the hairiness, or I shouldn't say hair, but the level of detail actually, I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is this doesn't have the charm or the soul that the original image of Sonic has. Now, I do know when I'm exposed to sort of recreations, I have a tendency to value the original creation. Like I went to see How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Benedict Cumberbatch, and it was a well-produced piece, but by the end, when you're like, what do you think of it, I just cross my arms and say, well, the original cartoon was just like way better. This was not a necessary reproduction. So I have serious bias playing in, but overall I'd say that doesn't look very Sonic like. Like I need to go. I'm gonna pull up just Sonic. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna because that just doesn't look at like that Sonic. Like what?
Well, he's had a lot. He's had a lot of different looks throughout the years. But this one, I don't know. When I saw, and I don't care much about Sonic anymore. Sonic hasn't had a really good game in a while. And in fact, as an adult playing through the Sega Genesis Sonic games, they're not that good either.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell that they put some effort into them, and they look good, and the music is great. But I think there's a fundamental gameplay flaw in Sonic the Hedgehog in that the game values speed, but then the level is just a series of things that slow you down.
Right.
And so, like, unless you memorize the whole level and manage to keep your momentum, then you're just stuck slowing down.
Well, there's some
most
fun
of
in
the
that,
time.
right? Is the idea that they are training you like it's a memory game of you make a mistake at part 1, and then you make a mistake at part 3, and then you make a mistake at part 5, and then you memorize part 1, 3, and 5, or have these obstacles you learn to, and there's satisfaction in navigating.
Yeah, sure.
that.
I mean, I understand that. I get it, but the problem is that there are ways to design a level that encourages speed, and there are a few places in the Sonic the Hedgehog games on Sega Genesis that let you go fast for a long time. I mean, I understand challenge, and in fact want challenge in video games, and so fine, make it challenging to go fast, but you also should show the player what they're working for, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for that in Sonic the
There should be a
Hedgehog.
payoff. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm looking at these classic images of Sonic, reminding myself of what I conceptualize as classic Sonic, and the biggest thing, the eyes are way smaller. I don't find this like repulsive or some sort of like horrendous rendering of him. I don't find it that interesting, to be honest. What's your take on it?
Yeah, my response was pretty similar. When I first saw it, I was kind of like, ew, like, well, this is weird. Like, he's all hairy and like kind of stocky. I don't know. It's just strange.
Well, right, because he has
And-
long legs with big shoes, and the ones that like a small torso near the head, kind of longer, and it's almost like your angle from the shoe up, so he kind of is like looking down. A lot of these images, and
Yeah,
I like that.
There are a couple of other images of this new CGI Sonic floating around, and again, I guess there's still some amount of controversy as to whether these are legitimate images, but I think it's pretty much decided that they are.
I think they let these things float out there, they read the audience, and then they might make changes depending on the audience reaction. Do you think that's a possibility, that this is an intentional leak, and then they go, oh, well, they didn't like how small the eyes are, they make them bigger, like why not be able to go change that? I guess you'd have to do that the whole frame, and I don't know how it all works.
Yeah, I don't know what stage of production the movie's in or anything, so I mean, maybe, I guess I could. But yeah, I think the issue really is his eyes, because if you look at the classic Sonic images, he actually has one mega eye. His eyes are connected over his nose, which is kind of a goofy thing that's probably down to it originally being a 2D pen drawing.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
And
Weird.
so, when they moved it to 3D, yeah, I'm sure they got some 3D designer that didn't play Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid or whatever, and like he's like, what, the eyes can't touch in this 3D model, so like they kept his eyes separate, and yeah, it works. If Sonic the Hedgehog never existed and you showed this image, you would go, oh yeah, I guess that's a blue hedgehog, weird. But when you look at it after knowing Sonic, you're like, what's wrong with his face?
Right.
His eyes look so small and like goofy, and they tried to put the little white fur in between his eyes, I guess, to like, I don't know,
It's weak. Yeah,
but it's not
no.
good enough.
I mean, some of the angles, the eyes meet at the nose, the whiteness of the eyes meet, and that you can't see that it's all connected by a lot of these images. But and that would be, I think, fine. Maybe it looks odd and a kind of I don't want to say realistic because it's clearly anthropomorphized, but
yeah, the uncanny valley.
yeah, I think maybe it would just look too odd with the whiteness. I'm going to trust they experimented and go, that doesn't look good. They probably looked at 7 or 8 or 20 or whatever models and said, this is the one we're going with. For whatever reasons, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think, and I guess I could be wrong about this, but I don't think Sega actually has creative control of this project. I think it's, some Hollywood production.
By the way,
company.
I'm Googling. So I Googled Sonic the Hedgehog, clicked on images, and now I see. So you see the array of images. The ones that you sent me were actually the first ones. And then at the top, It has some suggested, like unique. Like it said, classic was one of them. The first one's cute, then shadow, then classic, and I can click classic, and a whole different page pops up of what's considered classic Sonic, or transparent, or cartoon, or Sonic Boom. I guess just this is. I didn't know this was a feature. It was maybe I'm dating myself here, but like
on Google Image search.
On Google Image, they have like these suggestions.
Yeah, they tagged the things.
But it's nicely put, and it has a little icon with the small images of it in there. It's just a nice little feature. That's cool.
So, as a kid, you didn't play Pokemon either, did you?
No, and I resisted that one on an emotional level that it was silly.
You were too cool
Basically,
for Pokemon.
Yeah, I deemed it in some capacity. I was like, this is dorky, and then took pride in acting really annoyed when it would come up or have any significance and be like, oh my god, I don't have any cards, never had, never will. And so there was no way I was going to be convinced. In the way that I think every kid kind of has this transition from loving Barney to like hating Barney, and they start singing I hate you, you hate me. It just, I don't know. That seems like almost a rites of passage when I talk to people our age. Like, you really hate, but you didn't really hate Barney. That's the thing. You just socially agreed to hate Barney, I think. At least that's my experience. And so I just socially...
What a wuss. I hate Barney.
I mean, I couldn't distinguish between... You genuinely hate Barney. I was opposed. I was just like agreeing. I was going along with the crowd. But it kind of goes back to your original point of like, you liked country music, like whatever that means. You just socially agreed to that, like, that was... you bobbed your head up and down when you heard it. You didn't know what you liked, and you don't know what you disliked. Maybe you do, but when it comes to something like Barney, I did like Pokemon was the same thing. I deemed, and this would have been 5th grade-ish or so when it was getting really popular. I just didn't. I deemed it not cool probably because some friends that I thought had some social capital said this isn't cool, and I was like, yeah, no, it's not, and never.
See, I don't remember having, when we were at the same school, I don't remember having any experience with Pokemon. That was in 6th grade. But then after 6th grade, I changed schools. And that summer, my cousin introduced me to Pokemon. He let me play his copy of Pokemon Red on his Game Boy when I was on summer vacation. And I loved it. And started playing Pokemon a lot. And then, of course, in my new school, in public school in 7th grade, Pokemon was like that was the thing. And that year, the second generation of Pokemon games came out, Pokemon Gold and Silver. And that was all we did was play Pokemon. My science class, we didn't do science. We played Pokemon. That was it. The teacher just let everyone run wild. It was an insane class. Like it was like 35 kids, and it was just, she would just sit back on her computer, and occasionally we would have a worksheet, or we would have to glue some macaroni to construction paper and make a cell. But for the most part, it was Pokemon. That was it. That's all we did in 7th grade. Science class was play Pokemon.
Ridiculous.
And it was awesome.
You learned so much about Pokemon.
So the reason I mentioned that is because there's a live action Pokemon movie coming out this year as well called Detective Pikachu. And this one actually has movie trailers for it.
Oh, so it's like close to being released.
Yeah,
then.
It's close, and and Pikachu can talk in this, and he doesn't talk like Pika Pika. He doesn't talk like that. He has a voice, and the actor is Ryan Reynolds. Is actually the actor.
So is this
going to
go for like? Is this going to invite new fans to the genre? Like my parents might like it or something. Or
I don't know who's not a fan of Pokemon already. Well, I mean, Pokemon is huge. Anyway, when I heard about this idea, I thought it was bizarre. Like, wait, so you're telling me this movie isn't about like Pokemon training and battling and stuff, and not only that, but Pikachu can talk, and he's a detective? Like, I thought it was the most bizarre thing.
I'm
And
looking at
then,
these images. They're a little scary in the sense that it looks like it's hyper realistic in terms
yeah,
of the shit.
it's they're all furry, and there's a ton. Like the latest trailer shows a lot of different Pokemon in it, and they're all. Some of them are creepy looking, and well, they have striking designs.
So Ryan Reynolds, obviously getting this sort of actor who's known for kind of tongue in cheek, funny, witty, sharp witted, just comebacks. Like, is this going to be something where like my parents who have just vaguely heard of Pikachu, and like that's about the extent of their knowledge, and honestly mine too. Like, are we gonna go, that looks kind of fun, like, a little summer movie, go see, like, whatever, like, is that what's gonna happen?
I imagine your parents would watch it and go, it was cute.
Yeah, that's what I think is gonna happen. This is inviting new fans to the brand. Like, this is a conscious decision to do that. This isn't like, we're going to really play. Obviously you want to satisfy existing fans and have enough Easter eggs and whatever in there too. But that, like, you could not know anything about any of this, walk in, see it, and walk away going, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I guess really every time you make a movie or whatever, you're trying to bring in new fans. And Pokemon is so big already that, that's probably not their primary concern. They're probably trying to cash in on Pokemon Go from recent years. And the huge popularity that gained. Because that really did get a lot of new fans.
Oh, that definitely did. And still, Carrie, some people still play it.
Yeah.
So it hasn't completely gone
into
oblivion.
I wasn't a fan, personally.
Yeah, these photos, they're unset. They look like almost what could be from a horror movie or something. Have you heard about this Momo guy stuff? Oh, go ahead.
Have heard about what?
Momo, the Momo challenge.
No.
So
I can't even think of a joke to make about it. So.
I know the name sounds so. So it reeked of being an urban legend. If you just Google really quickly Momo Challenge, and you'll see this very freaky image that looks distinctly Japanese in terms of so what was happening, and you hear various iterations of this urban legend type thing. So this hackers or group or singular person is hacking popular kids videos, stuff I don't really know much about.
Like on YouTube,
on a lot of different mediums, but YouTube being the primary one.
Like Power Rangers?
Like this pink
hacking
pig
Power
thing.
Rangers?
Just imagine, well, that's not what kids are watching. Whatever they're watching, like we're talking about, like stuff with millions, if not billions of hits, And then Momo appears in this and says...
Gangnam Style?
God. And we'll say... contact this number. This is the most popular iteration. So contact this number on the WhatsApp, which I guess the WhatsApp is just the way you can text and stuff that like is free, and really that's a really popular app. And so the kids will do that, and then a live person will be on the other end, like with some sort of mask that looks like this. And we'll
can you see them, or is it just
they're
text?
like they're there.
It's like a video chat.
It's like a video chat will come into the WhatsApp, and they will actually be interacting with the kid, responding with the kid, and convincing them, saying stuff like, "I've decapitated parents' heads," and show them these gruesome images, and then say, if you don't kill yourself or harm yourself, I will be visiting your parents soon. And that kids are actually acting on this, and like this sort of like, I mean, to me, first of all, one of the most demented and twisted things I've heard of, and it just reeks of urban legend to me.
Wait, what's the connection to this creepy image?
So the connection to this image is actually that face pops up, says contact this in a still image. I saw a few of the supposed videos that said contact, you need to contact this number on the WhatsApp, and then the kids do it, and then it's like a person live on the other end with a mask like this that will but the lips will move, and it's really pretty disturbing looking. Then it turns out like this is some sort of it was a little bit difficult to sift through, because I heard some kids talking about this, and I thought, this just reeks of being not true. And they kept calling it the Momo Challenge because all these kids apparently, you hear this exaggerated, kids are committing suicide or hurting themselves, and 2 kids have already done it. The FBI is like legit looking into it, stuff like that. So I was like, I don't know. They're like, no, it's true. And so I saw immediately that it's built on a sculpture in Japan that was released for some horror exhibit type thing, but and they were like, yeah, we knew. And I said that, I immediately said that to the kids, and to which they responded, yes, that's the origin, but the person's using that sculpture as kind of the face of this, and then I looked into it, and what happened is actually some news sources picked it up quickly because it was like Facebook classic fake news. Even the BBC picked it up, and then it's a resurfacing hoax, but there's actually no origin. What's happened though is because this has taken root and sort of it's gotten massively popular in the last few days. That there's copycat stuff going on out there at this point. And you look at the image; like it's a horrific image. The kind of the thing born of nightmares. Like it is. I'm looking at it right now, and I kind of just don't want to continue to look. It is. It actually is one of the scarier. We talk about uncanny valley, that almost there's just something off about the face, clearly off, but like it's the real texture.
Yeah,
of
that's
the
not really.
and
Yeah,
like, that you don't think that falls into uncanny valley? Like it could be. I mean, it's definitely human.
Not in the way you use the term. Really, I mean, the term uncanny valley is usually reserved for like, when you have 3D CGI and it looks really close. It looks really close to human. But there's something
just a bit
like oddly fake about it, and like it just seems empty of a soul and just unrealistic in a disturbing way. Whereas this is just meant to be disturbing.
Intentionally disturbing. But the reason to me that it's disturbing, I would still argue, is that this is the face of a woman.
Yeah. It's a human face that's all distorted and lidless eyes and that kind of thing, stretched and stuff. And sure.
So it gives you this, your mind looks at it and goes, clearly a human face, absolutely. But
think of all scary images. They're either they either resemble distorted human faces or animal bugs or whatever, predators. Like that's what all scary images are.
Right, you're right. They are a sort of a distorted human thing. Yeah.
They're either a distorted human face or they suggest danger.
Right. I mean, even some sort of like a bug that is given human quality. I don't know if it's giant, I suppose, but it could still, it's still very clearly. Creatures are less scary than humans to me for that very reason. I guess we can't. To me, the impossibility of like a giant creature attacking you, but the possibility of like just some deranged killer is way more probable, and therefore just scarier. Anyway, I'm clicking off the Momo thing. I don't like it, but what was confusing for a moment was, people would say it's the Momo Challenge hoax. It's a hoax, but you couldn't tell if they, like some of the articles, it looked like, I was actually getting into it because I thought that when they were saying hoax, it looked like they were trying to downplay because they were worried that, yes, this person is actually doing this. They are hacking, but they haven't had like massive suicides. So if you're reading about all this massive suicide kids and all this, that's not true. In fact, there's only been like a few minor injuries. And so I'm like, well, wait a second. Are you saying though that this person really is engaged in this behavior and that it's just not as effective? Because that's still fascinating and really twisted and horrible. Or is this just totally the thing of myth and legend?
Well, it can't be that widespread if it's just one person doing it,
Well, and there's so many different iterations, but the PolitiFact, which I trust that source, gave a detailed links. I spent 20 minutes reading through. I'm not saying I did diligent research, but I am saying after reading that, I was like, this is an absolute hoax. Thoroughly, there is no origin. They could not even find these videos. They found some ones that would allude to it. You know, everyone's talking about the challenge but cannot find the challenge. You know, it's sort of strange phenomenon where
Well, if it's a person-to-person private like communication,
well, right, you
then
can't find the actual ones, but the video would be out there somewhere, you would think, or some kids. I don't know. I guess if it's done when it's finished, you know. I don't know. It's the perfect amount of mysterious, but it hits all the. Why is it when I hear it, I'm immediately skeptical that it happened? It's just too horrible to be true? Because obviously there are really horrible truths out there. It just feels like a creepypasta type. It's modern day horror story is what it sounds like to me.
Well, it just seems unbelievable that a kid would, first see the original image and then dial and then listen and then injure themselves.
Right.
Like it just seems like a series of less likely things.
I
I can understand a kid seeing the image and finding it mysterious and then being like, oh, what happens if I message this number and then doing that, but then like.
I think it's 100%
immediately
fear
closing
driven.
out.
It says you
when
have
it's
to do this
creepy.
or your parents will be hurt or killed, and like here's some evidence, and they're feeling overwhelmed. Is the angle of this urban legend, so that kids are like, I don't want my
sure. I
mom
understand
to-"
that.
And that's like, I was actually bullied when I was in first grade. I was tall for my age, and there was a kid. His name was Roosevelt. And he was.
It's a strange.
He was supposed to be
unusual name.
I know. I just remember Roosevelt was his first name. And I was in this class. I was the tallest in the grade, and he was almost as tall. He was supposed to be in third grade. I'm not going to say
he was supposed to be in third grade, and
literally-
and it was in first
and
grade.
he was in first grade. He was dumb, and he was a behavioral problem.
Jeez.
And I hate to say dumb because it's a little, but like, this kid, so I guess he looked at me, and I was just a wimp of a kid. The fact that I was tall meant nothing. I was a twig. I didn't weigh anything. I was nice. I didn't know how to operate any other way. And I don't know if you know this about me. So he actually would.
No.
He would. You really don't know this about me. That's cool. That's interesting.
I don't think so. No.
So he would bully me on the playground, and he would
How?
actually physically punch me and stuff, but I guess not hard enough to give me black eyes or what.
Did he punch you in the face?
Yeah, I'm telling you that the guy he would also threaten to hurt me more than he would. He wasn't constantly punching me, but he did punch me a few times. And we're talking like real. I'm not using the term lightly, and I'll even tell you how he got
not
caught.
like kids today.
Yeah,
with
no,
their stupid fake bullying.
We're not. Well, I'm not.
That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not undermining. I'm not even going to go to that discussion. But I am saying that this was physically. This wasn't even shoving. We're not talking or a pinch or you're dumb.
Stealing your lunch money.
This was. He might have done that too. No one wanted to be around him, and we're not wanting to be around me afterward because he would come and separate us, and he would. But the reason I did not go tell is he said, "I'm going to kill your parents if." And so this went on for like, I actually don't remember, but it felt like an eternity. It might have been a week or two. This is how extreme it got. And this is how I know that I'm not exaggerating these sort of vague memories in my head. The reason he got caught, and this is, God, it's pathetic to even share because I must have been so willfully going along. He picked me up, if you can imagine, where like I'm laying plank style face down, picks me up. So he's holding me. And then he drops and he knees me in the groin, and then I am like screaming, rolling on the ground, and the teachers run up, and I'm just screaming, rolling on the ground, and he's dropped me onto, like, in my mind, he was this beast of a man, older, stronger, intimidating Roosevelt, who, and even then, they were like, what just happened? And they're like getting him in trouble, and I'm terrified that he's getting caught, like, but I'm also
then he's going to kill your parents.
Yes, like in my mind, it was feasible somehow. I mean, I don't know. We were in first grade, though. I can tell you that. And so,
sure, yeah.
And honestly, I don't remember. He stopped after that, and that my parents, the next year sent me to a different school. I'll tell you
Was
that
that
too.
why they changed schools?
Actually, the reason they had planned from a parental perspective. They had talked it out. They said we want. Around middle school or maybe high school to send me to a private school, an independent school, to give me the best educational experience in college. But like as a kid with these formative experiences, let's stay public and kind of stay with just so you can get the full experience. But it was not that bullying experience that did it. It was actually a kid at our school brought a gun. And they said, so in conjunction with, all right, so our son's getting beat up, and it was like a third grader at the school brings a gun and did not threaten or anything, but, like just had it in his backpack and maybe was trying to brag. I don't really know the context. It was kind of vague and mysterious, but it was like, what? And so they were like, no, we're done. Like, we're done. We're so done getting beat up and like guns at the school. I mean, it was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was volunteering there, like really trying to make this work. It just sounds like it was aggressively poor in terms of just being unfit for a proper educational experience. So yeah, they got me out of there. So that way, so I transitioned in second grade, which is a weird time to transition.
Basically, your only experience with bullying.
Good question. Is that my I have bullied, but in a far less aggressive sense.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, well, in third grade and fifth grade, I got in trouble quite a bit. The same kid we were talking about who was very bad at basketball in our experience. So two, I'll try to keep this simple. Two buddies, two friends of mine, gosh. So after school, we would get picked up in this certain area. So my mom, and she had two friends, and their kids were in the same grade. One of them was the one that I bullied, and he was intolerable, and we would all get picked up in the same spot. I do maintain absolutely 100% this guy was aggressively annoying. This guy was intolerable by almost every measurable standard. I think he would literally like be the kind to be poking you and asking like, I'm not touching you, and this is far beyond the age you should even be in doing that.
It sounds like he was bullying you then.
Well, no, I would respond harshly and just be mean. So or there was one kid, and I'll tell you the name off air, but like I did some things I'm not proud of. Like we do you remember our trip to Tybee Island? There was a photo that circulated of him with his shirt off, or maybe all of us, I don't know, but he was chubby, and so I thought it was hilarious, this unflattering picture of him. So I'm not proud to admit it. I just walked around like showing, I think maybe even girls going like, "Hi, isn't he good looking?" Or it's just something really mean spirited.
Right.
Or like, so that same spot, we would get picked up by this concession stand after school. Like, so there was a very clear place to pick up your kids, but it was hectic after school. So the kids, my mom would have us walk down to this area to be picked up. And so it was by the concession stand. There's a bathroom by the concession stand. You can imagine any, like by a football, like a cinder block concession stand. And so this kid that we would pick on sometimes, it was a collective picking. I didn't just individually decide upon myself. I wasn't the sort of guy that was like socially, like I wasn't the bully. It was actually these kids were, I do maintain, particularly annoying, and then I would join in a collective effort to bully. So this kid who was the overweight kid who was being either just annoying from whatever fashion, took his hat, threw it in the woman's restroom, and was like, when you go in there and get it, I'm going to yell that you're in the woman's restroom. And this is an empty, so silly to think that this is like, I've created this situation for him. But, he cried, and I got punished pretty severely. And I'm actually...
How'd you get punished?
My parents sitting me down, I was quick to tears if I were in trouble, and they would like, I remember they were having a conversation with my other friend. So my friend and I engaged in this activity of throwing his hat back and forth and then throwing it in the woman's restroom. And so I remember going to my friend's house with my mom, and they sat us down and they walked out and they were having a conversation about what to do. And I was like, in tears. My friend remembers this conversation. He said,
Is this David?
Yes, this is David. So I should have just said that. So David actually shares.
We need to have David on the podcast.
We should have David
sometime.
on the podcast. So David says to me, or no, he remembers this conversation because I was crying and I go, wouldn't it be so much better just to be a happy dog? Like dogs are so happy.
I remember.
And, like,
I remember us
sad,
talking about that years later.
I'm just a sad human being and I'm in trouble for all of this. But the dogs are just happy, and that's kind of where this happy dog. Would you rather be a happy dog or a sad human? Like this question was born. We were in second grade at this point, though, and then my parents would punish me, whatever. I don't know, no TV, whatever. But it also make me write an apology note and call the house and apologize to the parents. Like a really thorough slowing down process that I think is appropriate because it's easy just to be like, kids are being dumb. But like it was memorable, and I had to, by my estimation, the best way to discipline a kid is however egregious the error, you need to slow down proportionately because almost all errors happen out of like a speedy, thoughtless, like impulsive action. So you just like do this thing, you get caught up in the action, and you're like this guy's being a jerk. He's being annoying, so we're going to take his hat and, and escalate it socially without thinking. It's not like I got up that day and said, I'm going to take his hat and throw it. And it was mostly impulsive. And, it was
a crime of passion.
Passion and opportunity. I saw the women's bathroom and thought, boom, and like just did it. And
that's a good soundbite to take out of context.
What? I saw the women's
bathroom and just boom, I did it. Crime of passion.
Crime of passion. And so they slowed me down because that was a pretty
what do you mean slowed you down?
I mean that when someone makes a mistake that's okay, well, really quickly. So if I'm teaching a kid and they give me a little bit of an attitude, I think I need to slow things down accordingly. So that's not a huge egregious error. That's a small error. So a small slowdown, a small moment would be like, hey, I know you probably didn't mean it, but I detected a little tone. Or whatever. I might explain the reason. Now, let's say they say something that's really inappropriate. I might say, hey, why don't we take a step outside? And so I'm pressing pause on the moment. I'm slowing, like if the world is, if this is strange, but if the world is carrying along at a certain pace, metaphorically, it's moving along at a certain pace. Mistakes are made when the world feels like it's moving faster and you're in some sort of social dynamics and things are going quickly and you make an impulsive decision and it feels like things have sped up and you're like, I don't know why I did it. I just, felt myself, maybe I didn't do my homework or I decided to cheat last second because things were speeding up and it went so fast and I just did it. So then the responsibility of the adults, I think, is to slow down in equal parts that you were going fast. So if a kid curses me out in class, like you just sped up super fast, and like this could be a suspension. You've cursed out a teacher, maybe an expulsion. Like that's like the ultimate slowdown and going, yeah, like we're gonna almost come to a standstill here. Do you see what I'm saying metaphorically? The slowdown.
Okay, I get it now.
So for them,
so in this situation where you threw the hat into the women's restroom, this event happened and it's over, and now like your parents are picking you up from school. So like how?
Well, this didn't happen.
I mean, I guess you're just saying the distribution of punishment from like talking to you and then like restricting TV and then making you call and apologize. The punishment was drawn out over a long period of time.
Yeah, well, or that it was an appropriately thorough punishment is really what I'm saying. So it's like they didn't just say, tell him you're sorry tomorrow, or say, hey, that was wrong, right? And I would say, yes, don't do it again. Okay. Like if that were the end of it, we didn't slow down a lot. We slowed down for a moment, but but what I did, by the way, in context, this is the same. The guy that I showed the shirt of, the guy that was we were constantly in interaction and constantly in friction, and this relationship was not in a healthy place and likely to continue if we didn't, slow down, I guess. So, and I think that's actually not only a good way to discipline, say, kids. I mean, it's really an approach I think that's healthy for us to. So whether it's overcoming a temptation or you need. It's not really a time. Maybe slow down isn't the best word, but it's useful for me in that if I know that I am susceptible to chaos, a moment of chaos, then I have to have equal measures of order to like as a safety net. So if these traps are this fast or this chaotic, I need it equal parts slowed down or orderly to prevent me from falling into these holes. So as a preventative measure, or as if I've actually messed up, and to correct that measure.
That makes sense. I guess that makes sense. So slow down and think about it, and don't react emotionally or based on, impulse, but to think about it and, let it sit a little bit.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So if I'm going to eat well, like for some people, they can just go, I'm going to stop eating poorly, and it's easy for them. So they don't have to think thoroughly and slow down and say, what am I going to do when I actually want to eat junk food? Because it's unlikely to happen if it really is that easy. That's rare, I think, by the way. But for me, it's extraordinarily difficult. So I need to think, okay, when I say I'm going to eat healthy, what do I mean? And so I'm going to give myself 2 cheat meals a week. And given that you eat 3 meals a day, you get 2 a week. And then I need to think, when are they likely to be? And Friday night and Saturday night seem like reasonable times for me to have a cheat meal. And then even plan out those, or at least, because that just enhances my enjoyment, anticipating that meal. And that way I have like I just want to get Taco Bell coming home from work today, and then to say, no, if I have that, then I can't have this other thing. And just having a thoughtfully constructed list of pros, cons, and consequences to my actions. That's slowing down is a way of putting it, I think.
Right.
So
Taco Bell's not that bad.
I mean, nothing's that bad in moderation, and if you're working out, and it just depends what you're doing. But
I mean, I guess it depends what you order, I suppose.
It's all the same, isn't it? Like meat and beans and cheese and sauce. And
I mean, some stuff is fried, and some stuff has more salt and all of that. But like in the spectrum of fast food, Taco Bell's not really all that unhealthy.
Are you saying that with the assumption that like meat is generally of the same quality? And I'm not talking about taste, but I'm talking about like if you order beans, I shouldn't say meat and then say beans. That's strange. But if beans are beans, like beans from a fancy Mexican restaurant,
a really nice curated
bean tree, and then beans from Taco Bell are more or less the same nutritional value. Because I mean, you hear actually, like, I think Taco Bell gets the hardest hit when it comes to PR, and like you hear things like, oh, there's X amount of cardboard in their food, or it's grade edible meat, or it has this much bug protein in it because it's allowed, or just weird. I mean, probably rumor mill stuff. But my point is that they get really tagged for having really low quality stuff, and that's why it's cheap. But does that mean it's packed with preservatives and therefore like actually like going to give you a bigger gut or make you feel worse or give you cancer or whatever the repercussions are? Or is that largely exaggerated? Like, what's your take on that?
I think it's largely exaggerated. But then again, keep in mind my Taco Bell order is bean burritos. That's the only thing I ever order at Taco Bell. So I don't indulge in all the other.
I mean, a bean burrito is a tortilla. It's got beans, obviously, a little
tortilla
cheese.
with beans in it, and a little bit of shredded cheese, and then they put that red sauce in there.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's very plain.
And I have recently started getting the black bean burrito. So I get one black bean burrito and then a regular bean burrito with no onions.
Yeah.
But so that's not very unhealthy. I mean, rice and beans, it's not like you have to pump them full of preservatives. You just keep them dry, and then cook them. I mean, I assume that's how Taco Bell does it. Maybe they don't keep them dry. Maybe they get them frozen or something, or canned. I don't know, but I mean, it's not like you have to pump a bunch of chemicals into rice and beans to keep them fresh.
No, you're right. So like measuring a black bean from there, or measuring it from, I don't know where I don't have a good like go to fancy place to get a black bean, but assuming you went there, got your fanciest black bean possible.
I'll have one of your finest black beans, please.
You take it back to the laboratory and you start studying what you know. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
I don't think they're all that different. I think probably the salt content is what you have to look out for at Taco Bell, just because I'm sure that they put a lot of salt in their food because makes it taste good.
Yeah.
And then the fried stuff, I guess. But compared to a big greasy McDonald's burger or something, Taco Bell is just not. It's not all that bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've got one other topic I want to talk about briefly at the end.
Yeah,
so
because I have to use the restroom, to be frank. But I'm good.
So we've got a ski trip coming up at the end of this month.
Yes.
So this will probably be our last podcast before the trip, and then I'm sure we'll have another one after the trip sometime. So you've never skied before.
Never skied before.
So I want to get your thoughts on like what you're anticipating, and what you are really looking forward to and what you're worried about. And I just want to get your thoughts on skiing and what you expect, and then after the trip you can talk about how it was and whether it met or exceeded or fell short of your expectations.
Okay, so a couple of things. I'm nervous about it. I'm nervous in the sense that what if I'm terrible at it and then or I don't like it and it's miserable for the entirety of the trip. That's like worst case scenario. Can't ski. Well, can't stay up.
You have to stick with it for 6 months, and then
regardless of how much I like it or not.
You can quit if you want after that.
So. Obviously, I'm excited and approaching it with a good attitude, and I'm happy and optimistic. But my concern being, what if I literally can't stay up? Or what if it's like I'm so freaking tense, and like exhausted after 20 minutes of skiing, and like I can't ski all day for a week or whatever. Like that's just going to be incredibly difficult. So those are two concerns, and we've talked about that briefly before. But you have affirmed, you're like, you know what? It's not as hard as it seems. They're long planks essentially that keep your balance. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be fine. You're gonna laugh at this though, because I do trust you, Bennett. I trust your take on maybe an evaluation of a movie or a meal or something like that. I absolutely do. But in this case, I have this distinct memory I go to do you remember when paintball was becoming increasingly popular and everyone was getting the guns and like the Tippmann 98 customs, and I think I had a Raptor. It was like blue chrome and the length of your barrel and all of that. And I think the details are foggy, but I think I appealed to you and I was a little bit nervous. I'd practiced shooting the gun, and paintballs come out fast, and they can tear through like cardboard boxes and lots of things. Mm-hmm. They could also splatter, and depending on a lot of different variables. But I remember being pretty concerned about playing a game and like the pain that it would, being shot at is like not a fun sounding experience. And you assured me, and all the trust I had in you was like, it's not bad. And you're like, really, it's not that bad. You wear the proper clothes. Like maybe it hits you the wrong way once and it stings, but worst case scenario, you get stung. But really, if you have the proper clothing, it doesn't even hurt at all. And then I played, and like my first game, I think I had some serious whelps on my body. Like they were like really painful, and I was
So was that the first time you played? Was that with me and my friends from my new school?
That was a different experience. It was before then, and so but after that, I was like Bennett's like wrong, like that, like I don't trust his.
Well,
take
what
on
kind
that.
of clothes were you wearing?
I honestly don't remember, and I wish
you're probably wearing the wrong clothes,
and so probably not, Bennett. Probably just whatever. Don't.
Well, paintballs, if they hit you on bare skin, then yeah, they hurt and they can cause a big bruise.
Oh, it was a bad bruise. Like the kind of like
if you're
show
wearing
off
just
to people
a t-shirt or something.
So yeah, I don't think I was.
Yeah,
I would have worn. I was scared about it. I have a feeling I would have worn like proper, if not more than proper clothing, because I was worried.
What I always wore was a big old, like my dad called them a hunting suit. It was basically just a the big old like zip up one piece suit, camo suit that deer hunters and stuff wear. That covers your legs
Smart.
and
It's
your
baggy
torso and
too,
your arms.
so when it hits it, but it's thick material, like canvasy
thick,
and stuff.
real thick.
So
Yeah, so when it hits, you can feel it, and it kind of stings a little bit, but it doesn't leave a mark on you.
But
anyway,
here's my greater point. When it comes to movies, I'll trust you. When it comes to food, I trust you. But you're talking about a physical endeavor now, and like I don't trust you. I'm joking, but I do mean your confidence, and you're like, you'll be fine. You're like reasonably athletic, and like you'll get the hang of it. You're speaking from your personal experience, and you're just confident that I'll have a similar one, and I really am less confident than you are, but I am cautiously optimistic. I'm a total to switch gears a little bit too. I'm a total baby when it comes to cold. I've lived in Florida long enough that it seems that, they say your blood thins. It seems to actually, I don't know if your blood actually thins, but I know that my sensitivity to the cold is extreme. It has been 50 degrees this last few days, and
Florida cold,
and I've been shivering like to the point it's embarrassing to admit how like it feel it in my bones. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I have some concern that everyone will be comfortable on this trip, and I'll be going, oh my god, like I'll be freezing when it's not, and I'll have to even acknowledge that I am properly dressed and my core is reasonably warm, but I can see my breath. Oh my gosh. So that part, but more like I've been doing morning workouts and stuff, so I'm hoping that I don't have sort of a soreness of, I've been doing squats and stuff, so I'm hoping that that really plays into not making me ultra sore, because if you woke up day 2 or 3 and you were one of those almost immobile sore, that would make the trip, that would make it rough. But overall, it's a whole new experience for me. I can't remember the last time I saw snow or large amounts of it, or I've never been. Anytime I've seen snow, it's been in sort of a setting in which it's unusual to snow, so the city doesn't handle it well. Like they didn't salt the roads, or But we're going to a place in which snow is the norm, and it will be a culture has adapted to it, and like probably has a lot of
business
features
built around
snow.
Yes,
there'll be features that either take advantage of the snow or treat it properly, and we can navigate it better. And I'd look forward to that.
It snowed 28 inches there in the last 4 days.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's really, really good to hear.
So now the total snowfall for the year is up there with the highest in the last few years. So
that is
hopefully that all sticks around. I will tell you this, even though you don't trust me. You don't have to trust me, but I mean, just think about the dynamics of the situation and what's happening when you're skiing. So I mean, you really do just have some slick planks on your feet, and you just stand there. I mean, if you're not on a really steep hill, you can just stand there, and gravity pulls you down the hill, and I'm skiing, and you're just standing with no muscular activity on your part.
It applies to skateboarding. You just stand on a board. But if you ever step on those things and you don't know what you're doing, and it's one of your first times, which I've never skateboarded.
But on a skateboard, your feet aren't attached to it. And you're riding over pavement or asphalt, and you don't have on a bunch of thick clothes, and you can fall off of the skateboard. On skis, you're stuck to the skis, and you're standing facing forward, and your feet can separate so that you can spread out your center of gravity a little bit and keep your balance more easily.
What about ice skating? I've done that 2 or 3
I've
times.
ice skated before and hate that.
It is my ankles. I'm quivery. I do find a certain balance eventually, but I am so tired after ice skating, and that's, I guess, I'm projecting a lot of that into. I mean, I understand.
Well, see, I had the same experience as you, ice skating. I didn't like ice skating when I went.
I enjoyed it.
And in ice skating, you're essentially just wearing shoes, and your ankles can still move when you are ice skating. So you have to exert a certain amount of control over your ankles. When you're skiing, your ankles are immobilized in the boots. So that's one less degree of freedom that you have to deal with.
Okay.
And additionally, in skating, your propulsion comes from
yourself
turning one foot and pushing it,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you're actually
create it.
having to manipulate your legs and move yourself across the ice. In skiing, if you're just going down a shallow hill, you just stand there, and your only concern is slowing yourself down, really. Now, so that's me being generous to skiing. Now, you do have to put in some amount of effort, but and this is what takes learning, is being able to direct yourself, being able to steer and slow down. So the first couple times I went skiing, that's what I struggled with, and it wasn't that my legs got tired or that I got worn out or that I was cold. It was that I couldn't stop. Like, I just couldn't stop. So, and of course I was on the East Coast too, and so the snow was really icy and slick, which makes it even harder to stop and turn. So it was basically, for me, go to the top of the hill, start going, and then like go at extreme speeds until I fall or hit something.
I was going to ask
I didn't hit.
how falling then is just your stopping method. Yeah,
Falling was my stopping method. Yeah, for those times.
how painful?
But
it's reasonably comfortable. I mean,
yeah, it's
fine.
surprisingly not that bad. I mean, obviously you can hurt yourself if you fall. You can twist some joints or whatever, but like, you're on soft, powdery snow, and you're wearing big, thick bundles of clothes, and like, I just found that falling wasn't a big deal. Like, I just didn't get hurt falling down. And most of the time when you fall too, you kind of skid rather than just fall flat on your face or something. Like, you just kind of skid on your side and skid on your butt and then slow down. So it's not that bad. So like, I anticipate how it'll be for you is, like, I can't speak to, how cold you'll be. That all depends on what clothes you wear. But like, you'll probably be frustrated at your inability to turn and to keep yourself going slow. At first, you may struggle with keeping your feet together or having them kind of separate, but you'll learn that real quick. Like, you learn how to control your skis relatively quickly. It's just that learning how to manage your speed is the harder part.
And that seems pretty uncomfortable if you are in this unfamiliar situation. You don't have much control, and you're starting to go fast, and you're starting to go faster, and you're just not really.
Well, you can always just fall over. That's the thing. You can always just go, well,
this is faster.
I'm not confident at this part, and just fall over.
So your falls, what percentage of your falls were intentional? I mean, would you say almost all of them? Like, in terms of, I need to stop, so I'm going to fall, not I'm out of and you've fallen because you're out of control.
The first time I went skiing, every time I got to the bottom, my fall was intentional, because it was either fall or run off the path and into people and all kinds of things. Right. So all of those were intentional, but I had many other unintentional ones where I was trying to turn.
That's what I want to know about. You're trying to turn.
Trying to stop, or trying to slow down, and you just overcorrect or overbalance or whatever, and you just kind of tip over. But not that bad. And so my first ski trip was a 3-day trip. And, by the end of the second day, I could slow myself down a little bit. Still didn't have good control. Even after that third day, I still didn't have good control, but I was having a blast even on the second day. The first day I was frustrated because I thought it would be easier than it was. But the second day I got the hang of it well enough to have a really good time. On my second ski trip, I got to, by the end of it, it was another 3-day trip, I got to where I could slow down effectively, and so I could actually steer myself and manage my speed. And then on my third ski trip, it was out west, and the snow was powdery, and you could control yourself a lot better. And on that trip, I learned how to, rather than just do what they call the snow plow, which is to basically make your skis point in a triangle in front of you, so that it slows you down like a snowplow.
Pizza.
I learned how to keep both of your skis together and go from side to side. You know?
That sounds professional. I could tell by the sound effect.
Yeah. And so that's how you're supposed. Well, that's how you have the most control anyway. And you can go fast and still control your speed by doing that. And it's really fun. It's also more tiring on your legs, but it's really fun.
But it's all the control in
so
the
I learned,
world, basically. Yeah.
Right. Well, I learned how to do that on the third trip. What I hope for you and for the other guys that we're going with is that, by the last day of skiing, you'll be able to control your speed pretty well doing the snowplow method, and maybe even get the hang of doing the side to side a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I definitely think it's doable, but I don't really anticipate many issues from anyone except for maybe David.
that's my personal goal. On top of having fun, is to not be the worst. And so beating David is a huge goal of mine. But we can give David a hard time, but he might just have the hang of it, and he's not
Hey,
he's not
yeah.
unathletic. I'm not saying he's an athlete either, but nor am I. So it's a crapshoot what's going to happen. So I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It seems like it's coming up really quick now, and I guess it is. It's not next week, but the next week,
Yeah,
and
no, it's
we're
definitely.
gone,
So it's next week is my last week of classes, and then it's spring break. Woohoo!
Well, we'll find out then after the ski trip. We'll get your thoughts and see how well founded your worries and predictions are.
Yes, we will find out. So until next time.
All right, yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So,
Yeah.
podcast.
Bye.